I got into politics, at a young age. I always loved reading about the Revolutionary War and our founding fathers. And obviously, they have some faults, but, they have some great quotes. John Adams once said, "I must study politics and war so that our sons may have liberty to study math and philosophy. They ought to study math and philosophy in order to give their children a right to study painting, poetry, and music." His point was, as a government, we should be making lives easier and better for the next generation. That the struggles that we face now, our future should not have to face. As a formerly disabled, openly bisexual man, the struggles I faced, no one else should have to face. We should be making lives easier for those around us, our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews. And that is my goal in running for Snohomish County Council, to make it clear. When I was elected to the city council, I made an oath to the United States Constitution, the Washington State Constitution, and the laws of the city of Gold Bar. And our Constitution is clear. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Our society is only as good as those at the bottom. And as Marco pointed out, nearly half of our homeless youth are openly LGBTQ in this country. Not because they want to be homeless, but because they've been kicked out. Because still in this country, it is legal to be fired in many states for being gay, or being bi, or being trans. And not just that issue, but homelessness in general. We have to fight for affordable housing. We need to end the austerity measures of NIMBYism and help those at the bottom, because people deserve to be treated with the basic human dignity that every human being deserves. Whether they are on the streets, whether they choose to use their last few dollars to buy a bottle of beer. Most of us in this room probably use some of our last dollars after a paycheck to buy a bottle of beer. We need to be making lives better for everyone. And it's not just about homelessness in people wanting to be homeless. It is a mental health issue. It is a civil rights issue. Housing is a human right, and we need to be able to help them in being able to afford rent. We need to be able to help everyone. It is cheaper to provide housing to those in need than it is to leave them on the streets, to change our building policies in anti-homeless architecture that causes people to die. We have seen that in Texas. We've seen that in Washington State. Snohomish County only checks how many homeless people there are once a year. And we skipped it this year because of COVID. There's estimated anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 people living either on the streets or in their cars or in a shelter. There's a shelter in Monroe that has done some good work, and I know Linda posts about it a lot, and I try and post it when I see it. But the fact that we even have to have shelters shows how society has failed us. We need to be better at mental health, which is why if I'm elected to the county council, I will propose a new mental health response team to work with our homeless populations to get them the needs that they deserve, to help those in mental health crises. Just this week, we saw what happened in Seattle, where a young man having a mental health crisis who needed a doctor was shot and killed. He needed a doctor, not a bullet in the chest. We need to be able to help everyone. And that is what I set out to do. This team should be working with our ambulances and our firefighters in and not necessarily just with police. We also need systemic police reform, one that allows for body cameras, one that keeps officers who have been fired for misconduct, who have costed the county $1 million in lawsuits already, and are rehired. That's unacceptable. And now they're in lawsuits again. No one should have to worry about having to call the police because they're having a mental health crisis or their family member or friend is having a crisis. That gets on to another issue of ambulance rides. At the lowest point in my family's life in 2016, when my grandpa was extremely sick before he passed in January of 2017, the day after Thanksgiving, we had to call an ambulance and he had to be transported from Gold Bar to Monroe, a 25-minute drive. We got an ambulance bill of $2,000 after insurance. Now, we were lucky that my family could afford that, but there are so many people who can't, to the point where you see on social media now, either people after the fact have to start GoFundMes, asking people for donations, or even before the fact, telling people, I've seen it where I work in Kirkland. My credit union is in a grocery store, who have signs that say, if something happens, call an Uber instead of an ambulance because it's cheaper. Out here in the 5th district, we're a lot more rural. We don't have the luxury to call an Uber, if you even want to say it's a luxury. The fact that that is happening is a detriment to our society. But there is hope. The city of Kirkland, where I work, they have a program that covers all costs after insurance. They are a city that has a much smaller budget, a much smaller population than Snohomish County, and we can adopt that program. Where if you're in Kirkland, doesn't matter where you live, where you work, if you're in Kirkland and you need help, you don't have to worry about calling an ambulance, because no one should have to worry about costs at the lowest point in their life when they have to call an ambulance because something bad is happening. John Wesley said, "Do all the good you can for all the people you can as long as ever you can." That's a quote that has stuck with me for years. And it's something that I pride myself in living. Every vote I take on the city council, every vote I take when I get my ballot, when I'm in a meeting with the Snohomish County Democrats or with the 39th LD as I chair our meetings. We need to do the best we can for everyone. We need to fight for our workers, not just our essential workers, but all of our workers, whether you work at Boeing or McDonald's, whether you're a truck driver or a barista or an iron worker, whether you're unionized or not. We need to be fighting to ensure that you have the rights that everyone else in the world has. Where you have to fear going in sick because if you call out, you're going to leave your coworkers understaffed. You're going to potentially lose out on that paycheck that you go to pay for your rent or your mortgage or your food or your doctor's bill or your medicine. We need to raise the minimum wage. We can do that in Snohomish County. Whether that happens at the federal level or not, we need to keep on pushing, because $15 is the floor. It is not the ceiling. Our workers are overworked, 40 hours a week. The United States is one of the only first world countries where we work 40 hours a week, sometimes more. Not even including, your drive to work, especially when you're in a more rural area. For me, I'm very lucky because one good thing about COVID is traffic has gone down. My job is about a 55-minute drive from where I am without traffic. With traffic before COVID, it was an hour and 45 minutes. We need to decrease our work week, and Senator Nguyen in the Washington State Senate has proposed a bill to lower it to 35 hours a week. which I support, but we also need to realize that we also need to raise the wage to match that, where you make the same whether you're working 35 hours or 40 hours, because people deserve to, people shouldn't be working themselves to death during the week just to barely live on the weekend. Imagine what you can do with an extra hour in each day. For me, that means I can go shopping at a different store, at a cheaper store, to save money. I get done with work, I am inside a grocery store, I'm too tired to stop somewhere else. We need to increase our break times. Right now, state law and county, you get 10 minutes for 4 hours. Most good companies allow their workers to get 15 minutes, and that should be the floor. And as I pointed out earlier, we need to fix Highway 2, and we need to fix 522 and 40 and help with some of 405 and Highway 99. As I said, I went to Olympia actually about a year ago last week, and I lobbied with state legislators to get that study passed for the bypass. Unfortunately, it had to be cut from the governor's budget because of COVID-19. But we need to push for that because all of this is interconnected. And I had Linda and Megan and Ivan and Senator Leas all speak about different topics, because everything is interconnected: social justice, economic justice, and environmental justice. You cannot fight for one without fighting for all three. If elected to the Snohomish County Council, I will be a councilman for all people. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, a leftist or a conservative, young or old, gay or straight, black or white, we must come together to fight for our community against austerity measures, against NIMBYism. We must fight for our neighbors and someone we don't know, someone we may never get to know, so that we may prosper in this so-called land of the free, to fight for basic human dignity, for a healthier, safer, better Snohomish County. Let's walk together, because the future is in our hands. Don't let it slip through our fingers.